The sun hung like a burning coal in the sky over Silver Creek, its merciless heat baking the dusty main street. Cole Morgan rode into town, the steady rhythm of his Morgan chestnut's hooves punctuating the afternoon silence. His weathered face betrayed nothing, but his ice-blue eyes took in everything, including the crowd gathered in the town square. At 45, Cole carried himself with the quiet confidence of a man who'd seen too much and survived anyway. The Colt single-action army on his hip wasn't for show. The worn grip testified to years of use. His cavalry-style riding posture revealed his past even before people recognized his face. Some still called him the Reckoner behind his back, the Union major who delivered justice with cold efficiency during the war. The crowd parted slightly as he approached. Then he saw her, a young woman tied to a post in the center of the square. Her dress was torn and dirty, her wrists raw from the rough rope. Despite her condition, she held her chin high, defiance burning in eyes that reminded him of someone from long ago. "This sinner has been found guilty of moral corruption," bellowed Reverend Pierce, a tall man whose pious exterior masked calculating eyes. The so-called Decency League stood behind him in self-righteous formation, nodding in unison. "She's to be made an example of," Pierce continued, his voice carrying across the square, "unless a man of standing claims responsibility for her redemption by sundown." The girl's eyes suddenly locked with Cole's. "Help me," she whispered, voice cracking with desperation. "Claim me tonight." Cole dismounted, the leather of his saddle creaking as he swung down. The crowd murmured. A path cleared between him and the girl, but it was quickly blocked by a young man in an expensive suit, wearing a silver-plated Schofield revolver low on his hip. "This isn't your business, Morgan," said Victor Ward, his silk vest and polished boots screaming of wealth that hadn't been earned. "Father says your kind should stick to your cattle." Cole didn't reach for his gun. Instead, he moved with lightning speed honed in countless battles, driving his fist precisely into Victor's throat, not hard enough to crush his windpipe, but enough to send him sprawling into the dirt, gasping for air. "Your father should teach you better manners," Cole said quietly, then reached into his pocket and tossed a leather pouch that landed with a heavy clink at Reverend Pierce's feet. "The lady's fine is paid. She's under my protection now." The crowd's whispers intensified. Pierce's face tightened, but he nodded curtly, motioning for the ropes to be cut. As the girl stood on shaky legs, Cole noticed something the others had missed. A fresh bullet grazed on her right arm, partially hidden by her torn sleeve. This wasn't just about moral corruption. Someone had tried to kill her. "What's your name?" he asked, helping her onto his horse. "Emma," she replied, her voice stronger now. "Emma Hart." The name hit Cole like a physical blow. Hart. It couldn't be coincidence. As they rode out of town, memories flooded back. The blood-soaked fields of Gettysburg, a young captain named Robert Hart pushing him out of a sharpshooter's sights, taking the bullet meant for Cole. The same captain dying in his arms hours later, extracting a promise. "If you ever meet my sister Emma, protect her as you would have protected me." The Triple M Ranch appeared on the horizon, 300 acres of prime grazing land that Cole had built from nothing after the war. Jackson, his ranch foreman, and a former slave who'd fought alongside him in the war, was waiting at the gate, Winchester in hand. "Trouble?" Jackson asked, his weathered face taking in the girl and Cole's grim expression. "Always is," Cole replied. "Get Miguel and Levi. We need to talk." Inside the ranch house, Emma's story spilled out as Jackson tended to her wound. She'd been working as a school teacher in Silver Creek for only 2 months when she discovered Augustus Ward's scheme. The railroad was coming through the territory, and Ward had been forging documents, forcing farmers off their land along the planned route. "When I found the real survey maps in the schoolhouse storage room, I knew something was wrong," she explained. The railroad is actually supposed to come through the East Valley, right through Ward's mining operation. He's been buying up the wrong land and selling it to settlers at inflated prices. Cole listened, cleaning his Colt methodically. And when you confronted him? I didn't, Emma said. I was going to the county marshal in Hampton, but Victor caught me at the stagecoach. When I ran, he shot at me. Then they arrested me for attempted theft and moral corruption. Said I'd tried to seduce Victor for family secrets. Miss Hart, Cole said finally, holstering his weapon, was your brother Robert Hart, captain in the 20th Maine? Her eyes widened. Yes. Did you know him? Cole nodded once. He saved my life at Gettysburg. I owe him a debt I can never repay. He didn't mention the promise, not yet. Jackson, gather the men. Ward won't let this end with her escape. Within an hour, Cole had assembled his small but loyal crew around the kitchen table. Jackson, whose tactical mind was as sharp as his shooting. Miguel Sanchez, whose skill with a lasso was unmatched in 3 territories. And Levi Cooper, a young cowhand whose quiet exterior hid exceptional tracking abilities. Ward controls the sheriff, Cole explained, drawing a rough map of Silver Creek. But he's been hiding something bigger than land fraud. Those miners he's brought in aren't just digging for gold. Some are farmers who wouldn't sell, now working under armed guards. The men exchanged grim looks as Cole laid out his plan. He and Miguel would return to town for information, while Jackson fortified the ranch and Levi watched the trails for Ward's men. Cole detailed weapons assignments with military precision. Jackson's specialized long rifle for perimeter defense. Miguel's Winchester 73 for mid-range coverage. Levi's shotgun for close encounters. This isn't your fight, Emma protested. It became my fight when Ward made it one, Cole replied, checking his spare ammunition. What he didn't say was that it had been his fight since Gettysburg, since a dying captain had whispered his sister's name. Silver Creek's saloon was half empty when Cole pushed through the bat-wing doors the following afternoon. He spotted a familiar face at the bar. Hank Miller, once a sergeant under his command, now wearing a deputy's badge. Major, Hank said quietly, nudging a whiskey toward him. You're stirring up a hornet's nest. Any friendly faces in that nest? Cole asked, keeping his back to the wall. Not many. Sheriff's deep in Ward's pocket. Hank leaned closer. Ward's brought in the Quint brothers, 3 professional gunmen from Kansas City. Cole's expression didn't change, but his mind was already calculating. The Quints were notorious, efficient, and merciless. Anything else I should know? Ward's been moving unusual shipments into the mine at night. Military crates. Hank's voice dropped further. And the workers don't come out once they go in. Cole nodded slightly, then froze as he caught a reflection in the mirror behind the bar. 3 men had entered, spreading out behind him. He recognized one from descriptions. Luke Quint, with his distinctive scarred cheek. Down! Cole shouted, shoving Hank aside as he drew his Colt in one fluid motion. The first shot splintered the bar where Cole's head had been a split second earlier. His return fire caught the leftmost gunman in the chest, dropping him instantly. Rolling behind an overturned table, Cole fired twice more, hitting a second man in the shoulder. Luke Quint was faster than his companions, his bullet grazing Cole's arm as he dove for cover. The saloon erupted in chaos, breaking glass, splintering wood, the acrid smell of gunpowder filling the air. Cole's wounded arm burned as he steadied his aim, waiting for Quint to make a mistake. When the gunman shifted position, Cole fired, but his gun clicked empty. A shot rang out from the window, and Quint staggered backward, clutching his leg. Miguel appeared in the doorway, his Winchester smoking. Time to go, Patron. They retreated through the back door, mounted their horses, and rode hard. Cole's arm throbbed, but the wound was superficial. We need to see the mine, he said grimly. By nightfall, they had positioned themselves on the ridge overlooking Ward's operation. What they saw confirmed Cole's worst suspicions. The mine entrance was heavily guarded, with armed men patrolling the perimeter. But more disturbing was the convoy arriving under cover of darkness. Wagons carrying wooden crates stenciled with military markings. Weapons, Cole muttered, recognizing the format from his army days. Enough to arm a small regiment. Miguel pointed to a group of men being marched into the mine at gunpoint. Those are not miners. Those are Thomas Fletcher and his sons from the North Valley farm. Cole's jaw tightened. Ward isn't just planning to cheat the railroad. He's building a private army. As they watched, workers unloaded the last wagon, revealing something that made even Cole's blood run cold. A Gatling gun, the mechanical multi-barrel weapon that could fire hundreds of rounds per minute. Ward wasn't just preparing for resistance. He was planning a war. They retreated silently, but Cole's mind was racing. With that kind of firepower, Ward could control the entire territory, not just Silver Creek. The stakes had suddenly become much higher than one woman's freedom or fraudulent land deals. When they crested the final hill before the Triple M, they immediately sensed something wrong. No lamps burned in the windows. Cole drew his Colt, and Miguel readied his rifle as they approached cautiously. A shot rang out from the darkness, kicking up dirt near Cole's boot. "That was a warning," came Jackson's voice. "Next one won't be." "It's us," Cole called out, relieved. Jackson emerged from behind the barn, rifle still raised. "We've got trouble. 6 riders attacked an hour ago. Levi and I fought them off, but they'll be back with more." "Emma," Cole demanded. Jackson's expression darkened. "Gone. Left this." He handed Cole a folded note. In neat handwriting, Emma had written, "I won't let more people die for my cause. Gone to find proof at the county recorder's office. Don't follow. You've done enough." Cole crumpled the note in his fist. "Damn stubborn hearts," he muttered, remembering her brother's similar tendency toward self-sacrifice. "She'll head straight into Ward's trap." "There's more," Jackson said. "One of the attackers talked before he died. Ward hasn't just found gold in his mine. There's a massive vein running under half the valley, including most of Triple M." The pieces suddenly fit together. Ward wasn't just altering railroad maps to sell worthless land. He was trying to force out the rightful owners of the most valuable property in the territory, land sitting atop a fortune in gold. Dawn found Cole at the small church in Silver Creek, his patience exhausted. Reverend Pierce was alone, arranging his sermon notes when Cole entered. The preacher's eyes widened, then narrowed craftily. "The house of the Lord welcomes all sinners seeking redemption, Mr. Morgan." "I'm not here for redemption," Cole said, closing the door behind him. "I'm here for truth." Pierce backed away as Cole advanced, bumping into his pulpit. I don't know what you mean." Cole moved with sudden violence, pinning the preacher against the wall. "Emma Hart, where is she?" "I don't," Pierce began, then gasped as Cole pressed harder. "The mine! Ward took her to the mine after she was caught at the county office." "And what's in those military shipments?" Cole demanded. Fear loosened Pierce's tongue. "Weapons. Dynamite. Ward found a gold vein bigger than the Comstock. It runs under everything. Your ranch, the Henderson place, all of it. He's planning to drive everyone out, claim mineral rights to the entire valley." "When?" "Tomorrow. The last shipment arrived last night. A Gatling gun. Once it's mounted, he'll announce the new mining claims. Anyone who resists—" Pierce swallowed hard. Cole released him with disgust. "You sold your soul cheap, Reverend." "You don't understand," Pierce whined. "Ward owns this town. He owns me, the bank, the church, everything." "Not everything," Cole said, turning to leave. "Not yet." Back at Triple M, Cole found Hank waiting with unexpected company. A dozen men, some former soldiers he recognized, others farmers from outlying ranches. All were armed. "Word spreading about Ward's plans," Hank explained. "These men don't fancy being forced off their land or into his mine." Cole surveyed the group. Not professional fighters, but men with something worth fighting for. Combined with his own crew, they might stand a chance, if they were smart. He unrolled a map of the mine that Miguel had sketched. Ward has superior numbers in a defensive position, but he's not expecting a coordinated attack. We hit them at 4 points simultaneously. Cole detailed the assault plan with military precision, diversionary explosions at the ore processing shed, followed by teams targeting guard positions. Jackson would lead 3 men with long rifles on the ridge for cover fire. Miguel and Levi would free the prisoners from the worker barracks, while Cole and Hank led the main force into the mine itself to find Emma. "What about the Gatling gun?" someone asked. "It's inside the mine entrance," Cole replied. "That's my priority. If it gets operational, none of us stand a chance." He looked at each man in turn. "I won't lie to you. Some of us won't come back. But if Ward succeeds, none of us have a future here anyway." Jackson had been working all day on improvised explosives using mining powder and kerosene, creating both distraction devices and more powerful charges for taking out key structures. As night fell, Cole checked his Colt one final time, then slid a second gun, a compact Remington Derringer, into his boot as a last resort. "For Robert," he whispered to himself as they mounted up and rode toward the mine. The attack began with a series of explosions that lit up the night sky. Jackson's charges at the ore processing plant worked perfectly, drawing most of the guards away from the mine entrance. Cole and his team moved quickly through the confusion, dropping guards with well-placed shots before they could raise the alarm. Inside the mine, oil lamps cast eerie shadows on rough-hewn walls that glistened with gold veins. Cole had never seen anything like it. Wealth beyond imagination embedded in the rock itself. No wonder Ward was willing to kill for it. They encountered resistance at the first junction. Miners armed with pickaxes and shovels, driven forward by Ward's gunmen. Cole's group fought their way past, careful to avoid killing the forced laborers. Deeper in the mine, they found the Gatling gun, still in its crate, being assembled. Cole and Hank eliminated the mechanics before they could complete their work, then destroyed the firing mechanism to render it permanently useless. "Emma must be in the lower level," Hank said, pointing to a crude elevator platform. As they descended, gunfire echoed through the shaft. The element of surprise was fading. At the bottom, they found themselves in a larger chamber where several tunnels converged, and there, behind a makeshift desk covered with maps and documents, stood Augustus Ward himself, a barrel-chested man with cold eyes and a luxurious white beard. Emma was tied to a chair beside him, bruised but alive. When she saw Cole, her eyes widened in warning. Too late, Cole sensed movement behind him. Victor Ward stepped from the shadows, pistol raised. "Drop your weapons or she dies first." Cole lowered his Colt slowly, mind racing for options. Augustus Ward smiled triumphantly, walking around the desk. "The famous Reckoner," he said almost admiringly. "I knew you'd come. So predictable. The honorable soldier, still fighting a war that ended a decade ago." "This isn't war," Cole replied. "It's simple theft." Ward laughed. "It's progress, Major Morgan. The strong taking what the weak cannot hold. Isn't that what your Union Army did to the South?" "We didn't murder civilians for gold," Cole said evenly. "No? Ask the widows of Atlanta what they lost." Ward picked up a document from his desk. "I know your history, Morgan. The cleansing operations your unit performed. How many men died under your justice?" "Only those who deserved it," Cole said, his voice hollow. "And who decides who deserves it?" Ward spread his arms. "In this valley I do. I decide who prospers and who perishes. The railroad, the gold, all of it under my control." "You won't live to enjoy it," Cole stated simply. Ward's smile faded. "You're in no position to make threats." He nodded to Victor. "Kill him, slowly." Victor stepped forward eagerly, But Emma suddenly lunged despite her bonds, knocking the desk lamp onto the papers. As flames erupted, Cole dropped to one knee, pulling the hidden derringer from his boot. Two shots rang out almost simultaneously. Victor crumpled, a look of surprise on his face. Augustus staggered back, clutching his chest, his own gun unfired. Cole cut Emma free as shouts and gunfire sounded from above. "We need to move, now!" "The documents," Emma insisted, grabbing papers that hadn't caught fire. "Proof of everything. The fraud, the forced labor, even a confession to murdering the previous sheriff when he started asking questions." They fought their way back up the shaft, rejoining Hank and the others. Outside, they found the tide had turned. The remaining guards had surrendered when they saw their employer wasn't coming to their aid. The freed laborers had overwhelmed their captors with sheer numbers. But as Cole and Emma emerged from the mine entrance, a line of mounted men blocked their path. The Quint brothers and their remaining gunmen, at least a dozen strong. "This ends now," Luke Quint called out, his scarred face twisted in a grin. "Ward paid in advance." Cole assessed their position grimly. His men were outnumbered, tired, many wounded. It would be a slaughter. Then from the ridge above came a familiar crack, Jackson's long rifle. One of Quint's men tumbled from his horse. More shots followed from different positions, precise and devastating. From behind the mine buildings, a line of townspeople appeared. Shopkeepers, bartenders, even women with hunting rifles. They formed a semicircle behind the gunmen. "Silver Creek isn't for sale anymore," called a voice Cole recognized as the blacksmith's. The Quint brothers exchanged glances, calculating their diminishing odds. Before they could decide, the thunder of hooves announced yet another arrival, a contingent of federal marshals led by a man in a dusty black coat. "Federal Marshal," he shouted, "lay down your weapons." With their employer dead and facing overwhelming opposition, the fight went out of the hired guns. They surrendered without further bloodshed. The marshal approached Cole, hand extended. "James Foster, U.S. Marshal's Office. Got a wire from Deputy Miller here about potential insurrection and federal land fraud." He eyed the documents in Emma's hands. "I'm guessing that's evidence." Emma nodded, handing over the papers. "Everything you need to prove what Ward was doing." Cole looked at Hank, who shrugged. "Sent the wire yesterday. Figured we might need the cavalry." 1 month later, Cole sat on his porch, watching the sunset paint the Triple M in gold. His wounded shoulder had nearly healed, and the territory was slowly returning to normal. Ward's mining operation had been shut down pending federal investigation. The forced laborers freed and compensated from Ward's considerable assets. Emma had declined his offer to stay at the ranch, instead taking charge of the schoolhouse that now doubled as an orphanage for children whose parents had died in Ward's mine. She visited often, bringing books and news from town. Today she brought a letter sealed with the territorial governor's stamp. Official thanks for exposing the conspiracy, along with clear title to the Triple M, including mineral rights to whatever lay beneath. "Your brother would be proud," Cole said as they shared coffee on the porch. "Of both of us," Emma replied. She hesitated. "You never told me exactly what happened between you and Robert at Gettysburg." Cole looked into the distance. "He took a bullet meant for me, then made me promise to live a life worth saving." He smiled faintly. "Some days I wonder if I have." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a rider, a young man in a telegraph company uniform, holding an urgent message. Cole read it silently, his expression growing serious. "It's from Tombstone," he said finally. "Old Army friend needs help. Town's being terrorized by a gang calling themselves the Cowboys. Law can't touch them." He looked at Emma, who smiled knowingly. "Go," she said. "It's who you are." Cole glanced toward the barn, where Jackson was already checking saddles, anticipating his decision. The Morgan chestnut nickered softly, as if eager for the trail. Seems justice still needs the reckoner, doesn't it? Cole said, folding the telegram and reaching for his hat. The sun slipped below the horizon as Cole Morgan prepared once more to ride toward trouble. Some men find peace in quiet lives. Others find it only by standing against the darkness. For Cole, the choice had been made long ago, on a blood-soaked field in Pennsylvania, when a dying man had whispered, "Make it count." And so he would. One bullet, one injustice, one town at a time,